Hello, mate.
Hello, buddy. Okay.
Yeah, good.
Did you manage to jump on that call? I think I saw you on. Did you?
Yeah, I was there. I was there in the end.
Cool.
Just to check how things were going.
Yeah, we had some initial issues with Colin's mic, but all good apart from that, mate.
Okay, cool.
I can see there's some people on already. Welcome, everybody.
Did you allow for anyone to unmute? Well, obviously, I managed to do that, but I'm not a host, am I?
Yeah, people can unmute as they like.
Okay, cool.
But we obviously want them to stay on mute.
Cool. Looks good.
Yeah, we had initial issues with Colin's mic, but we got him on in the end, so hopefully no issues with that.
Perfect. You should. Let me see something here. There's 16. There's 16 participants.
Ricardo, if you just tell me what you can see, can you see the video stuff on my screen or just the PowerPoint slide?
I can see the slide. The PowerPoint slide. I can see you obviously, but because I've pinned you.
Yeah.
So you're the only guy, or well, you or anyone who speaks are the only guy who are going to show up on the screen. Obviously, if you press the plus on the corner of the screen, you're going to be able to see everyone.
Mm-hmm. But
there's no point. So you've got 21.
Liz Roberts, I can see you're in the room. Can you just give us a shout out just so we can hear your voice, know you're on? I need to unmute your mic.
Hey guys, I'm here.
Thanks, Liz. Keep your mic unmuted, Liz. Colin, I can see you're on the call as well. Do you want to unmute your mic and see if we've got your audio sorted?
Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, mate.
Brilliant.
Stan, yeah, I can see you as well, pal. There you are, Stan. Unmute your mic, please, mate.
Are you still sharing content?
I'm still sharing my screen, yeah.
Okay, just because I can't see it now.
Okay. Liz, can you see the PowerPoint slide?
I can indeed.
Then I must have done something, but it's okay. I'll sort it. There's no stress.
This is an absolute bonus. I can't actually see myself. Is that supposed to be the case?
Yeah.
Thank God for that.
No, we can't see you either.
Lucky everyone.
You do yourself a disservice, Colin.
Not saying a word, Bobby. By the way, Bobby, did you celebrate your birthday recently in lockdown?
I did, mate, yeah.
What did you do? Did you go out, do something?
I went for a run.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Fun times.
yeah. And then we had an online social event with some friends.
Oh, bless.
Yeah, so that was about it, mate. Really, but no, I had a good time. Good conversations with some people throughout the day and stuff. You know, caught up with my son and my parents and everything. So no, it was good.
Excellent. Well, happy belated birthday.
Thanks, mate. I had worse birthdays when I used to live abroad, so it's all good.
Oh, okay.
How's the little one? Is he behaving, mate?
I'm really scared to say anything, but right now I'm hoping that he's having his afternoon nap, and I'm hoping he's going to have a good long one.
Remind us how old he is.
He is 19 months old.
Okay.
Yeah,
There may be trouble ahead.
exactly. I had jet black hair 3 weeks ago. That's all.
Can everyone else see Colin's? Liz, can you see Colin's video?
No. Colin is hiding. And if Colin's going to hide, I'm going to hide.
I've just prompted him to see if his video will start. There we go.
I nearly got away with that, sorry.
Yeah. I've sorted it.
Well done, Ricardo.
Thank you. I was here on an individual battle to try and get back to normal. I've managed to do it. Okay, so 40.
Bobby, is there any reason why you're showing us Michael Bain, or is that something?
Yeah, that's it's my boss's account.
Okay.
Yeah. So
This is alias.
yes, yeah. Just in case this goes wrong, you can blame Mike.
So are you teaching online at the moment, Colin? Is school carrying on regardless?
Yeah, we're trying our best to. There's a lot of Google Classroom stuff going on. Got a couple of GCSE PE classes that I'm still trying to keep ticking along, so that's been quite interesting.
Okay.
Core PE, we've gone down the route a little bit more of kind of each year group. Here's a few ideas, here's a few suggestions, ways of keeping active, but you know, there's so much out there. I've seen on Twitter, you know, some schools are really going for it, which has been amazing to watch. We've been a little bit more low key in that respect. What about yourself?
No, I'm out, so I'm just in a primary school. So we're sort of trying to push Joe Wicks and get them all active. But,
I mean, I've got an 8-year-old daughter as well, and it's been really interesting to see what she's experiencing it from the other side, because her school's kind of like really been pushing the online stuff, and there's plenty to be getting on with. It's not as if anybody's sitting around, but it's just trying to juggle things. That's the biggest problem.
It is, yeah. It's the change, isn't it?
Yeah.
Adapt as we go. But I think there's a lot of positives that will come out of it. I've never seen so many people so active.
No, I know, it's funny, isn't it? It is funny. I do worry there's a lot of kind of like middle-aged people having a go at Joe Wicks when they really shouldn't be going anywhere near it. It's going to be some bad injuries.
Ricardo, how are we doing for numbers, mate? Have you seen?
50.
Should we make a start? 2 o'clock?
Yeah, just give them a couple of minutes. Some people might be playing around with the app, so just extra 4 or 5 minutes. Do you have your phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on silent. Guys, I hope Liz, Stan and Colin, I hope your phones are on silent. We don't want any awkward moments when you guys are speaking.
No.
So that's a fine.
Learned that one the hard way.
Are you guys still seeing the content?
I just stopped.
PowerPoint.
Sorry, I've just stopped sharing it
Okay,
because
okay,
you
okay.
asked me to do something, and
So are you doing it?
well, I'll copy the link over to you now, mate, if that's all right, and you can invite. Where was I? Zoom.
It's the same details you've shared on the email, isn't it?
Yeah. Can you just send that over?
I'll do that. Yeah.
Well, there's a blast from the past. Pedro Nunez, good afternoon. How are you, mate? If you want to speak, you can unmute your mic, Pedro.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Are you okay?
Yeah, very well. Thanks, mate. Nice to see you.
Hi,
Yeah,
Pedro.
nice to see you, man. Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. You?
Yeah, I'm fine. In England in this moment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've arrived yesterday. So, yeah, my family is here, so makes sense.
Ah,
Yeah, the second quarantine in the last month, so that's fine.
Good to see you, Pedro. We'll catch up after, mate. If you put your mic back on mute, please.
Okay, 2 more minutes and then I suggest we start.
Sure. What's the numbers looking like, Ricardo?
Sorry?
What's the numbers looking like, mate?
65.
Okay, let's get going, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone on the call. Obviously, take which one is applicable to you and which time zone you're currently in. My name is Bobby White. I'm the National Performance Manager with England Handball. I'm not Michael Bain, but yeah, if this goes wrong, you can blame Mike. So just to go through a couple of bits with you, in terms of housekeeping, you can see on the screen, if you can keep your microphone on mute, that would be great. If you have a question, you can navigate your way to the chat box, which we can see is currently being spoken to now. Some good questions coming in already. There will be an opportunity for questions at the end of the webinar. We'll save around 10 minutes for that. And as you guys should all be aware, these are going to be recorded and sent out to you as well. So if there's anything that you feel like you've missed, it can be covered. So just going to go through a couple of bits in terms of context. You know, the current situation across the world is, you know, we're on lockdown, and we've decided that we're going to try and run these coaching development webinars. This is our first one, so we're looking at handball in schools and developing a handball curriculum. So please bear with us if we have some technical issues and stuff like that. We're going to try and work our way through as we go. I just want to start off as well with where we've come from as an association in terms of delivering handball in the UK, or certainly in England, since 2012, when we had the Olympic Games in London. We've seen a real increase, a real spike in terms of the amount of activity that's going on in our schools, and a good example of that is the national schools tournament that we run across under 13 and under 15 age groups. Back in 2012, there was around 40 schools participating in those tournaments, and last year we had 1,700 teams enter across the two age groups and across boys and girls teams. So we've seen a huge increase in the amount of schools that are able to offer handball, and the growth on that level has been incredible. Some of the stuff that we've been doing along the way to try and support our schools is introduce some specific coaching courses for PE teachers. So we've got a basic level, which is an introduction to teaching handball, and then we've in 2018, late 2018, we introduced an advanced teachers award to try and help the PE teachers kind of increase their knowledge of the sport and their ability to deliver. Something else that's really helped us recently is there's been a change in the national curriculum. So in terms of what sports are being offered in terms of final assessments for our students, they've reduced it to about 10 sports. Handball's remained on the curriculum for many schools, which has really been useful for us. But there's a little bit of background in terms of where we're at with handball in schools in general. I am delighted to be joined by three fairly well-known faces in the world of handball in this particular space. We've got Stan Belinski from Trafford Handball Club. We've got Liz Roberts from Paul Phoenix, who does lots of work within schools programs. And we've got Colin McGill from Aylesbury Grammar School in Buckinghamshire. So I'm going to start off by just going around to each participant for them to introduce themselves, and then we're going to get into some questions to try and generate some good discussion for you guys. So Stan, if we can start off with you, mate, if you just give a bit of an introduction to yourself and your background, please.
Thanks for having me in the first place. My name is Stan. I'm the head coach of Trafford Handball Club, originally coming from Poland, moved to England a few years ago, started living coaching in schools 4 years ago with Manchester Handball Club. Currently working on programs for the primary and secondary schools, along with all the coaches from my club. I've been playing handball myself for over 20 years. So it's great to be able to share the passion with people around. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Liz.
Yeah, afternoon, everyone. So yes, I fell in love with handball 2013, well, the end of 2012, saw it at the Olympics, was at university and thought, what a great game. Immediately started up a satellite club in our local area and have just continued to push the sport within Dorset in all the schools that I possibly can get into. So I go into schools, teach curriculum sessions, in half-termly blocks, and lots of after-school clubs, which has led to many sort of county programmes that we put on. I also work for England Handball in a coaching capacity as other roles. But yes, I'm now the Southwest head coach, and yeah, just all things handball really.
Thanks, Liz. And finally, you, Colin. Thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, slightly different route from the other guys, I suppose. Up till about 11 years ago, hadn't even heard of handball, didn't even know what handball was. Was retraining as a PE teacher at the time, and I was very, very lucky in hindsight to have a couple of opportunities as a teacher trainer. Went through my level 1 and level 2, fast tracked thanks to England Handball at the time. Suddenly had this wonderful introduction to a sport I'd never even really had much to do with before. And at the same time was doing my second placement in what became my actual teaching role. And they were making decisions about what Change for Life, the club, to go with. Decided to go with handball, funnily enough. And it's just gone from strength to strength since then. And here we are, 9 years later, very lucky enough to have coached a couple of national schools winning teams, seen boys gone on to play regional, national, and also recently Team GB level. So yeah, from something I knew nothing about, it's been a bit of a life-changing experience.
Great, thanks, Colin. So the first question I'm going to start off with is open, and whoever feels like they're in a position where they're ready to answer, just feel free to jump in. And it's around the barriers that you've faced in introducing handball into the schools or into curriculum time. You know, I'm sure people across this webinar will have experienced challenges themselves, and I suppose we want to give them a flavour of the challenges that we've had in England, and then perhaps how we've overcome them. So I'll open that up to the floor. Or should I pick on someone?
I think you're going to need to pick on someone.
Colin, how has it been within secondary school for you? What barriers have you faced?
I've been very fortunate insofar as I work with a school that kind of like allows quite a bit of autonomy. But handball was very much about an extracurricular thing, an opportunity for boys to just kind of like have a go at the sport as an extracurricular club, and that's how it was originally introduced. We only run kind of lunchtime clubs initially just for under 15. And then, you know, 3-4 years later, we've been able to do under 13 as well. But it's about initially convincing people that handball is a legitimate sport. I think some people need to see it being played. What helped us massively was getting involved in the national competition at the time, which was in its junior phases, in its kind of like number of teams and its venue. But it gave a little bit of focus, gave a little bit of context to what we were trying to do. And from that point on, once we kind of achieved a little bit of success initially, and a lot of boys started to buy into it, it became easier then to kind of try and introduce it from a curriculum perspective and start to integrate it into, you know, Key Stage 3 and then Key Stage 4. So that's very much how the route has gone in our school.
Yeah, it's success breeds success, doesn't it?
100%, yeah, 100%.
I think I'm similar. So I mainly at the moment in primary setting, and I've been very fortunate that the local schools have just embraced handball. They see so many benefits to it. The barriers we faced are mainly staffing issues. So when we try and get more into the competition route, so some of the under 13s, we've got lots and lots of handball going on in the schools. We've got 30-40 kids coming to after school or lunchtime clubs, but then the barrier is staffing and transport and staff time. So you get to the competition and then, you know, the head teacher has decided that you can't spare the staff to take them to the competition that day. So that's been one of our biggest ones. And in addition, we faced with the Dorset School Games, so in the under 13s. 2 years ago, the Active Dorset couldn't actually staff or man or finance the under 13 competition anymore. So we took that on as a club and managed to keep it going. So it's all about resources, time and effort. But where there's a will, there's a way.
Thanks, Liz. Stan, have you got any comments on the barriers you've faced up in Trafford?
I think, like, again, we are very fortunate in Manchester because I think 2 years ago, 2 schools, boys and girls in under 15, won the school competitions organised by England Handball. So we basically, from the club perspective, we just took it from there. introduced a few tester sessions, trying to find the teachers that are willing to, you know, get involved with the sport, provide them with the opportunities around the club, and just take it from there, really.
Okay, something that's really caught my attention with the answer you've given is around the resourcing and staffing, which is obviously a big challenge. Would you guys mind sharing a little bit about your own coaching journey, how you guys have managed to develop yourselves and what opportunities you might have accessed to make sure you guys are kind of up to speed with handball and the coaching side of it?
Yeah, that's cool. So as I said, I fell in love with, I got introduced to handball through a level 1 at Bournemouth University. So I was there as a mature student a few years ago, and just introduced and thought, what a fantastic game, so accessible for children. Just having that passion and seeing how kids reacted to it, and it just gave everybody a sort of a new platform, a sports platform to play from. Just motivated me to do more. So I think within 2 years I'd completed my level 2 coaching award, and gone on, you know, just sought out every opportunity that was offered. So volunteering in schools, putting on school clubs, joining Handball, who, you know, they've supported me throughout, lots of coaching, development opportunities, now, you know, coaching for the Southwest, and it's just been endless opportunities, and it's just wonderful to see the game grow so quickly. Has it been similar for you, Stan?
I come from a different angle. As a former handball player, I think it was kind of a pathway for me to like try to get involved in coaching. I wasn't able to play handball because of the injuries I had. So in order to, you know, progress and share the passion for moving forward, I wanted to really get involved and see what I can do and achieve from, you know, from the coaching perspective. I was heavily involved in coaching back home in Poland for a couple of years with the federation, and then when I decided to move to England, I've used basically an England handball website to try to find a local club and see how can I get involved. And I think that's I guess that's the easiest way to do it. Use the local resources, use the local clubs, and see what you can get, what you can learn from one another.
Colin, anything to add on this one?
Yeah, I think just throwing ourselves in the deep end right at the very start by getting involved in national competition was a really steep learning curve for us. To play, you know, recreational handball during, you know, lunchtime sessions and that kind of stuff was fantastic. But to play a little bit of competitive stuff, to start to see the need to just, you know, develop a little bit of understanding about the tactical aspect of it, because that seems to be the biggest challenge, is just going from a game of throw, catch, run, you know, score, shoot, and that kind of stuff to actually playing proper tactical, you know, and I think the contact element, that's when it really starts to change the game of handball, and the need to develop the skills to negate all of that. That's been really a great thing for us, was that initial contact. I think initially there was very much a focus where England handball were coming in. I remember yourself coming in and delivering a few supplementary sessions, Bobby, and coming over to the school, which obviously with the you know, Olympic link had a big impact at the time. And I think, you know, from respect to these two guys talking about those club links, it's just that classic case of, you know, introduction at school, take them to a certain level, and then say, look, you know, here's a local club, here's one within, you know, a few miles of you. They train on a Monday evening. Why don't you go along? And that's had a huge effect, as has, you know, more and more boys going through the system. I've had some fantastic students that have gone from being players to come back and act as assistant coaches, and give us all of the knowledge that they're getting from being involved in regional academies and national squads. And, you know, as I said, now, you know, Team GB things. It's a case of I just turn up, make sure everybody's where they're supposed to be now. And these boys do a lot of the one-to-one coaching stuff, which is exactly where it should be.
Yeah.
Thanks, Colin.
That's been one of the most wonderful things, hasn't it? Seeing seeing a lad come to your year 7 after school club, and then representing GB at under 18s. You know, that journey means everything.
I think this you talked about with staffing is 100% correct. You know, I'm still in a situation as successful as we've been as a school. it is still seen within my school as my thing, and it's something that, you know, I do, and the staff are tremendously supportive. But rather than me having to rely on another member of staff, for example, to be there with me for fixtures and tournaments, is that it's now a case of I can bring one of our kind of older sixth form students who's, you know, played handball. They come along, supplement, and it's been perfect.
That's great stuff, guys. Thanks for sharing those learning opportunities with us and talking us through how it's maybe shaped your programs. I'm going to start off with something that Colin said now in terms of seeing the skills develop tactically, I suppose. How would you go about, Stan, I'm going to start with you actually. If you had an 8-week program you were starting up for one-term school, where would you start with the game? Where would you start with, you know, I think maybe to explain it to people who are maybe watching from other countries where handball might be more popular, or even in a similar situation with us. We're starting from zero. A lot of the players that come to us have got very, very limited knowledge of the game. They might have seen it on TV, they might not have. They might have experienced it in a national competition or somewhat, but generally they come to us with very little knowledge. So Stan, where would you start off with in terms of implementing this into an 8-week program?
I think you want to start it with making sure that the kids enjoy it, really, to get them hooked up, and then you can progress it from there.
How would you go about making sure they enjoy it, mate?
What we tend to do for our schools, we tend to deliver like a couple of tester sessions across different ages in school to see, you know, what works, what doesn't, and to also assess, you know, the level of handball, that, you know, that the kids present, and then take it from there, really.
What things have you, sorry mate, can I ask, because you mentioned around things that work and what doesn't, what have you found that's been successful?
Well, you know, coming from the country when handball is well developed, it was quite a bit of shock, really. You know, finding out that, you know, handball is such an exotic sport in England. So, you know, the expectations and the reality, you know, had to be adjusted like straight on. So again, it was more about, you know, finding out from the conversation with the PE staff, to see what they're interested in, what they want to put the focus on, and then us as a, you know, specialist, trying to, you know, do what we can do, really, and take it from there, provide the kids with the opportunities outside of the school. Okay.
Liz, have you got any comments on this one? I think you've done quite a lot of work around introducing it from scratch. So yeah, to talk us through your kind of approach.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think sometimes the introduction is one of my favourite parts. You go in and you're full of energy, and you bring this new game that is so accessible to every child, and it's like you say, you're starting from scratch. You know, it's not kids fighting to be in the football team or the rugby team. They think, oh, handball, and it's new, and so you've just got that excitement to begin with. And then it's just bringing energy. We just show them the game straight away, you know, straight in, and keep it really simple. A case of, look, this is a goal, this is a ball, throw the ball in the goal. And then you start to bring in, you know, different small-sided games, conditions, just fun stuff. Yeah, it's just fun the whole way through, and you just adapt to make sure that everything you do is handball specific. You know, games that's going to increase their, you know, the level of their arm when they're throwing, just as many touches of the ball as possible. You know, that's the philosophy here. But yeah, fun. The main thing is, you know, that each kid develops success in everything that you do, every session, and yeah, it's cool.
Great. Thanks, Liz. Colin, how about you at AGS? Have you got a particular method that you would introduce the sport to a new age group?
Yeah, definitely. Irrespective of whether it's being taught at Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4, and that's the wonderful thing about handball, is the kind of nature in which you can progress and develop, and also differentiate within you know, both teaching and also the extracurricular stuff as well. But generally speaking, we'll always look to teach things via a kind of games for understanding approach. So more of a whole part whole. Just give you a little bit introduction when we go through our kind of like introduction to handball, sort of session 1, to allow them to get into gameplay straight away. We'll go into, you know, obviously no contact, because that is something you don't want to go into straight away, but we go with a 6-step, no dribbling kind of gameplay straight away. So, so much can be achieved off of just 6 steps. That it allows our students to understand how to develop space, create space individually and as teams, and you can start to look at those things before you then start to look at, well, hold on, you've now only got 3 steps. Let's just try and introduce a bounce and then 3 more steps, and then just kind of like piecemeal it on from there and progress it and develop it. And every so often just say, right, okay, we've now got to look at the difference between passing a handball and throwing a ball. Let's do a session where we look at it as more of a skills based. We'll still integrate it within small sided games and try and go from there. And I'll be honest with you, really just go with the pace at which the students are comfortable working and the kind of challenge that they're able to meet.
Thanks, Colin. Some really, really useful stuff you guys talking about there, and something that's jumping out at me at the moment is potentially challenges around specific positions. I think everyone on the webinar will probably know which positions I might be talking about, but Stan, from your perspective, am I right in thinking that you played as a pivot as a player?
The playmaker.
Playmaker. Oh, beg your pardon. Maybe it was just on the course. I saw you doing such a good job at pivot. But let's take it from your experience as a player, and then trying to introduce this particular role within handball in schools in England. What's been the biggest challenge with it?
To be honest with you, I don't tend to focus on positioning too early. I would rather them develop, the proper technique and, get the right mindset and enjoy the game. And, as you go with the game, people start developing the pathways, really, the skills, and then you can perhaps match it to the, practical position in the game.
Okay, thanks, mate. Colin, how about yourself in terms of the line player / pivot? Any challenges you've experienced with this position?
Yeah, you can sometimes tend to go down the cliche and look at the guy who can kind of handle themselves physically, enjoys the contact side of things. I mean, that's one thing that the school I'm at, we're a rugby school as well, and we've got a lot of basketballers and those kind of guys. And once they understand the physical aspect of the game and what's required, then you tend to find out the guys who kind of enjoy that side of things, working in kind of like close spaces, close proximity to others, and try and look to develop there. The other thing you've got to do, obviously, with you being here, Bobby, you've got to, find the kid who's crazy enough to stay in goal and, want to stop a few handballs coming at them from stupid speeds and stupid places. So you always kind of like identify the lunatics amongst your group, and then you go with those and work with those. And then, similar to, as said previously, I don't really tend to, focus on position too much until we get into kind of like a real desire to want to kind of play more team handball and extracurricular stuff when we start to move and kind of like do a little bit of isolated stuff from there.
Okay, thanks, Colin. And I take those comments as compliments, by the way. Thank you.
Always
Liz, how about your experiences with these 2 positions we've highlighted?
Obviously, at the moment, I'm at a lower level primary within schools primary, so positions don't really to play too much. Obviously, there, as Colin said, there's the certain number of you that love to get in goal and throw stuff around. But we, tend to make sure that everybody is rotating, nobody gets stuck anywhere. One of the biggest aims, I think, primary school is sort of developing that there's no fear of the ball, and so making sure that you've got the right equipment, that you're using, the correct ball, make sure it's something nice and soft, or size for their hands. But positions come a little later on, don't they? So.
Yeah, sure. I just was interested to see if there was any particular methods that you'd use to introduce the goalkeepers you mentioned around, softer balls and stuff like that. It's a terrifying position for people that have never ever seen the sport and they're going in goal for the first time. Speaking from experience on that one. In terms of other things that have contributed to the success of your programs, is there anything that you can think of that, if we didn't have that in place, or maybe on the other side, if we had that in place, we would be able to push our programs on even further? I mean, Colin, from a school's perspective, I'll start with you. I mean, what things have been invaluable for you for the success or the development of your program, or what's missing?
I think what's obviously, because in reflection now, in hindsight, I've actually been involved in this a lot longer than I've probably anticipated. So, you know, from seeing national competition start, I was involved 10 years ago, and the pathway in which you went through, and you know, we're now at a stage where to get through our national competition, we have to go through district competition, we have to go through county competition, we then go through regional, and then if we're lucky enough, we make it into national finals. And that challenge has become harder and harder and harder every single year. And what I've really noticed in our area, you know, in the Buckinghamshire area, you know, that's the wonderful work that's been done in combination with, you know, England Handball and LEAP, you know, as our county council sports organiser. You know, the county competition is one of the hardest things for us to get through, and it's been a real challenge. And that has made, you know, a massive difference when you're looking at kind of like the buy-in and you know, pathways and routes that you can, you know, get through. Maybe it's maybe it's an ignorance on my behalf. A lot of my knowledge base, I felt, was developed in the early years of, you know, taking this on and doing stuff in those first 3-4 years. I've been reliant on students coming in, kind of like, you know, teaching an old dog a few new tricks every so often and going down that route, which has been useful. I think similar to kind of like as I've seen in rugby and maybe football, if there was an opportunity, you know, for CPD sessions that I could attend and go to, that would be run that focused on certain aspects of the game. You talked about positional stuff, and you know, like if it was like a goalkeeper specific or winger specific, or you know, attacking specific sessions that we could go to, so you could look at the, you know, the tactical side of things. I think that would help massively going forward.
Okay, so more bespoke workshops around those things, kind of like what we've got on in terms of the webinar series, actually. But you'd like them to be, you know, yeah, more local and accessible in that sense. Great, thanks for that. Liz, let's go to you. What do you think in terms of the additional bits that have supported the success of the programs you're working with, and maybe stuff that's missing?
The support we've had, England Handball, you know, have pushed on the youth competitions, so developing into under 13s and under 15s now, with school sports. It's just flying now. These, yeah, like I say, these webinars now are on lockdown. Fantastic resource for us all to get involved with. I agree with Colin. I think more and more teacher CPD. Once teachers understand the game and have actually played it, you have more support on your side. If you have a school on your side and supporting you, yeah, you can't fail. So yeah, a little bit more.
Thanks, Liz. And Stan, from you?
I think the big thing for us was when England Handball introduced the under 14 leagues. You know, the school competition is one thing, when, you know, you can use it as a selling point when you go to the schools. But then you get the people, you get the kids, you get the players, you get the teachers willing to, you know, develop it further. So that's when you can introduce it, like saying, listen, there's a local club, they do great things. They're part of the, you know, regional, national leagues, when, you know, kids can actually challenge themselves.
Yeah.
For us, that was, I guess, the main thing, which basically we based our, you know, the first year of existence around the club.
Okay.
And use it as a main selling point for the schools and local partners.
Can I just say one other point? Sorry, I think the other thing is that, you know, from a secondary perspective, you know, you touched on it briefly, that the power in which, you know, handball being a practically assessed sport within GCSE is so crucial and so vital, you know, for the development of handball going forward. Moderation, it's an interesting one, being moderated. I don't know if this is a point that we're going to go on to a little bit later, and I'm talking about this a bit too early.
No, go ahead, Colin, go ahead.
Later. I think, you know, from the perspective of seeing a few moderations and going through that moderation process, it is quite interesting to be externally moderated by people who may not necessarily be au fait with what is going on in handball. It is an interesting one. And also, you know, with more and more working in like these kind of like hubs and schools that are being asked to put on handball sessions, is that, you know, for moderation is to see that moderation take place. And I think the other biggest challenge and this is something that, you know, I know from speaking to a few people at England Handball about, is really making that moderation assessment criteria probably a little bit more relevant to handball than it currently stands at the moment. I think the skills breakdown in its core skills and advanced skills is a little bit confusing to look at, even if you have been playing handball or experiencing handball for a period of time, because I'm not necessarily certain that the criteria is as clear as it could be.
I know that we've been doing some work, some colleagues have been working with awarding bodies to try to actually address those points. And for those people that are listening from abroad, Colin, can you just go into a little bit more detail perhaps around what moderation means, how the process works, where the moderators come from?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So as part of our GCSE, kind of like our year 10 to 11 qualifications are, within PE, with our examining board, the boys and girls are assessed over 3 practical sports, and they're given grades based on their abilities, whether they be kind of like skills in isolation, decision making, tactical stuff, etc., etc. And what ends up happening is that a school will be responsible for the internal moderation, so giving students grades based on the teachers' understanding of the assessment criteria. And then obviously, in order to determine whether that assessment has done legitimately, we go through an external moderation process where maybe 4 or 5 schools are brought together by an external moderator employed by the examining board. And what will happen is that on an external moderation day, handball, for example, will have a half an hour, 45-minute slot where somebody will lead a session, either game-based or skills-based, and teachers will have a look at a variety of different students who are invited to join from different grades and different boundaries and grade boundaries, just really to determine that people are being assessed consistently and effectively. Okay,
thanks for that, Colin. Really interesting stuff. Questions that have been coming in through the chat, quite interesting to see some of the range of questions, and this one's probably quite relevant to people from all over, but we've got some specific challenges around it in the UK and certainly England with regards to funding. So how are you guys accessing resources in terms of goals and other equipment, anything around the courts that you're using, like it's expensive to put down the lines on the court. So Liz, I'll start with you. Has there been anything that you've done to secure funds to support?
Yeah, I start by going down the back of the sofa. So yeah, funding's out there if you search hard enough. So from a club perspective, we set up using a Sport England small grant. We were lucky enough to reap the full reward there. Which has just given us a platform to get the essential equipment. Like you say, everything to do with handball at current time is expensive, so it's continually sourcing pots of money. Starting off obviously with the small grants, and then running several satellite clubs so that you could get funding in, you could start building up new little pockets of handball across the county. So that was a terrific start. Yeah, there's been little pockets also through England Handball with the proactive funding. So it's a bit like the old club mark where you tick boxes and you meet the criteria, for working hard towards promoting your club. And so yeah, there's extra money coming in there. And then it is just a case of searching for the best deals and on venue hire, and hoping you strike it lucky with a school. So that's been one of the biggest bonuses, getting in with a school who want to help support you and finding a little bit of available time there. But yeah, the funding's there, just got to look.
Okay, we'll go to Colin from a school's perspective. Is there anything that you've seen probably differently to what Liz is describing in terms of access to these funding pots that exist for clubs?
Yeah, I've always got kind of like the policy of trying to deliver this as cheaply as possible, if I'm honest with you, and trying to minimise on costs, because you're always constantly competing with the kind of like more, I hate to say it, majority sports, where budgets are spent on, you know, rugby, football, etc., etc. So we've always tried to adapt. It's a luxury to play on a full-size handball court, played in lots of competitions now, and do everything in a sports hall that is probably, we play on a netball-sized court, which is not ideal. It means the boys have to get a little bit creative with regards to creating space, but we tend to kind of like use and adapt. When stuff has not been available to us, we haven't been afraid to go outside, obviously weather permitting, and deliver from there. You know, at the end of the day, it is a sport that can be delivered quite cheaply. Access to a portable goal. We're lucky that we've got 3x2s, but it doesn't have to be. Just a few handballs, if you're going to mainly go down a game-based approach, will help as well for introduction. But, you know, like everybody else, really, it's just appealing to the better nature of my head of department every so often, and just asking if he can help with a little bit of funding every so often.
Yeah. I have one school, Colin, that we have a goal taped on the wall. So yeah,
we've done that in our sports hall. It's good fun.
Necessity is the mother of invention, eh?
Absolutely.
Stan, anything from you on the funding side and access to equipment and stuff like that?
Well, from my perspective, I had no issues in either securing or finding the funding. The funding is there, like Liz and Colin said, and then again, if there's a will, there's a way. You can start off with the Sports England grant. You can have a conversation with England Handball. You can, approach your local councils, local partners, local businesses that are willing to spend some money or, share some money. You can approach the equipment providers saying, like, guys, listen, we'll create some videos. You can put it on the website, use it as a, promotions materials. Again, I'm happy to share the applications that we use for the Sports England, because from what I can see from the comments, people are saying that the process is very much complicated. It is and it isn't, and at the end of the day, we're all here to grow handball and to support one another. So I think, as a community, handball community, we should work together, more together, moving forward.
Thanks for that, Stan. And if people want to contact, if we're happy to share emails and stuff, then we can put that in the debrief email that goes out after this with the recording. Just one more question from me before we maybe move on to some direct questions from everyone watching. This is maybe a bit more challenging one for you guys. Best bit of advice, like top bit of advice for any would-be teacher / coach that's looking to start a handball project in a school. And I'm sorry, Colin, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to put you on the spotlight, please.
Brilliant. Thanks. Well, I suppose it's the philosophy that I've always gone with the whole of my teaching career, irrespective of what it's been, is that just try and stay one step ahead of everybody else, and that's more than enough. I was really, really lucky when I was first introduced into handball, was to go through a level 2 coaching qualification, which in hindsight is crazy. But I didn't need it at the time to get and introduce handball into schools. It was just being that one step ahead, knowing what you want to do, and just trying to make everything that you do as focused on gameplay, enjoyment of gameplay, and then trying to teach the core skills from there, because then that gives you the scope to go away, do a bit of research, come back for your next session, and then try and introduce and sort of like drip feed stuff from there.
Thanks, Colin. So guys, it has to be something different to what Colin says. And Liz, just because the yellow circle is on you at the moment, I'm going to go straight to you. Best bit of advice for the would-be teacher / coach starting a handball project at a school?
Enjoy it. You have to enjoy it. It's pushing a minority sport. You have to love every last second of it, and to get everybody engaged, and otherwise, quit. But that would be my best advice. Just love everything you do, and just play. Let the kids play.
Okay, thanks, Liz. And finally, Stan, we'll come to you before we open up questions to the guys watching.
Well, from my perspective, we live in the 21st century. Everything is on the internet. You can, by no problem, reach out to anyone whenever you're unsure and you want to ask questions. So again, I will encourage everyone to basically, talk to one another, exchange the experience, try to challenge yourself on a daily basis and see what you can get.
So basically like a little community of practice, figure out which schools have done it around your area, yeah, share ideas, stuff like that.
Absolutely, it'll be great, I guess, like to use Colin's history to, you know, open it and sell it to the other schools, saying, guys, you know, I've started somewhere. This is what I've done and how I've done it. You know, of course, you need to find your own way to, you know, when it comes to delivery. But hey, no one will give you, you know, a receipt, you know, how to do things. There's no guide there, you know, how to deliver things. You just need to find your own way. And then again, if there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely, yeah. And just maybe touching on that there is, you know, some guidance and some courses and stuff like that that are on offer. But as you've all kind of alluded to, you have to find a method that works for you and the school that you're in, the situation you're in, inside, outside. Yeah, we're all probably experiencing similar challenges with slightly different tweaks on it. So yeah, find the way that works for you. Excellent stuff. Guys, I'm going to open it up to those of you watching now to maybe throw a few curveballs at our panel and at England Handball, if you like. We've seen some stuff go into the group over the last few minutes. I know that one of my colleagues is going to be replying to some of those specifically, but if anyone wants to jump in now with a question, then feel free to unmute your mic or throw it in the chat box.
Bobby.
Yes, Ricardo.
Maybe before the questions start, I will just go over Kirsten's message on the chat box.
Sure.
Around the courses, just to clarify the situation. So both the introduction to teaching handball and the advanced teacher award are EAJ creations, and they are the guides for tutors and the content were created by EAJ. They obviously are available to share to other nations and other areas if need be. There's a lot of good work done by IHF in terms of schools development as well. I know there's a couple of people on this call that are more linked to IHF in terms of development of handball in school. But just to directly answer to that comment, the courses were created by EAJ. The content is available on EAJ database. And yes, if there's anything that you need further in terms of explanation and detail, please just you should have our email passed on to you after the meeting, so just feel free to contact. The second aspect that I would like to raise, and you were talking about funding, we focused a bit more on the secondary school element of things, but we know there's funding available, and I believe Jake mentioned it early, and Andrew as well. There's funding available for the primary school side of things, the premium funding. We were before this interruption, we were tackling the primary school element of things and considering attacking strongly that front. But there's also an option there in terms of premium funding if you're thinking about developing handball at primary school level. But yes, those are the 2 points I would like to raise at this stage. So I'll leave the floor to anyone who wants to intervene and give ideas and suggestions. Thank you.
Ricardo, just while we've got you on,
yep.
There's I know that your work, particularly in the Midlands around primary schools, has been probably one of our flagship areas in terms of primary school work. Question thrown into the group now from Andrew in Newcastle. The closest school to them playing is an hour away. How would you, or what kind of things could you do to support the club to grow if they're facing that challenge? No other schools around them playing?
Well, is Andrew asking from a club perspective or from a school perspective?
Primary school.
Well, the ideal pathway to solve the issue would be to engage more schools, and to do that, you would contact the EAJ element responsible for your area, so the partnerships manager on your area, present the issue, and the EAJ member would then contact local CSPs and SGOs and try to develop courses that would raise the interest and the profile of the sport, and from then create a core number of schools that would be willing to take part in and come and play tournaments or even the EAJ competition. That would be my answer.
Okay, thanks, Ricardo. I think Andrew's
No
put back
problem.
into the group his particular challenges around the SGO, not having plans for it. Really difficult one, and it might be something that we pick up off the chat with one of our support officers.
I mean,
one of our team.
England Handball can go directly to schools, so it's a question of identifying schools that would be keen to develop. Try to engage with them in terms of development of teachers, and then go from there. Even if the SGO doesn't have the interest, doesn't mean that we can't push it. So it's a question of getting in touch with the relevant people, and we would be more than willing and able to help on that.
Okay, thanks, mate.
No problem.
I'm going to open up a question that's been thrown into the group. So it's open to Liz, Colin, and Stan. But I might start with Colin because you've probably experienced it maybe a little bit more than most. How do you stop? I mean, for those of you that weren't aware, Colin's school is an all-boys school. And so, Colin, the question is around boys with perhaps like a football mentality where they would be rushing up and kind of playing almost football but with their hands. How have you managed to constrain the session so that they start following a more handball-esque format and start to appreciate the need to everyone attack, everyone defend, that kind of game model?
With the whole team attack, whole team defence, just really simple conditions to the game, I tend to find to help, because you do get mentalities where guys think like central defensive midfielders in football, and this is my little zone and I'm going to stay in here. Real simple stuff, like apart from the goalkeeper, at the time that the attacking team scores, everyone needs to be in the opposition half. That kind of stuff kind of promotes getting that team forward. Other things where return to defence, actually calling out a timeline where you actually want everybody to get back in their defensive positions within 3 seconds, 4 seconds on losing possession of the ball. Just little things like that. In order to try and promote a little bit of width and depth as well, we'll usually kind of like put a court into 3 zones, central zones, and 2 wider areas, and only allow kind of like 2 players per attacking team to be in those zones. So there's lots of things that, if I'm totally honest with you, I will transfer from other sports and just adapt it and put it into a handball context.
Thanks, Colin. That's great. There's lots and lots of questions coming into the group, which is great. And one of the questions come through, Ricardo. I might just come back to you for this one because, again, it's about primary school tournaments.
Yep.
It's asking why AHA doesn't try to organise tournaments on a primary school level. Maybe you've got some comments for this.
Well, it's a question of using the resources that are on the ground. Primary school handball tournaments are being organised through guidance of EAJ in most of the areas in the country. We can't just make it national when we are at the moment trying to raise the interest at under 14 level. So eventually we'll come to that, but at the moment we need to take step by step. We unfortunately don't have handball as a prime sport, so we need to be carefully realistic about our approach. We can't run before we walk at this stage, and I think there's a lot of good work being done around the country via clubs and via coaches and via CSPs and SGOs, and the handball in primary schools has been growing massively, and we will push a bit more on that front as soon as all this situation is sorted. In terms of the question around mixed with primary school kids, the answer is yes. We play mini handball. There's a lot of documentation around mini handball available on IHF as well. And we play the 5v5 mixed side. Yes, there's different takes on that from different areas in the country. But most of them allow for mixed competitions. There's areas who play, say, a game of 20 minutes in the first 10 minutes only girls, in the second 10 minutes only boys. There's areas that play mixed straight away, because the simple fact is that mini handball is very flexible and adaptable to the context where you're in, and you can change the rules to and adapt the rules to suit your needs and to suit the needs and wants of the schools you're engaging. So the answer would be yes.
Thanks, Ricardo. Liz, I know you've probably got lots of experience of delivering mixed handball, and not just in terms of competitions, but in terms of the training and offer that you guys put on. Can you talk us through your experiences of mixed handball for the younger age groups?
Yeah, generally it's a hugely positive experience. You two tend to get the stereotypical sort of the athletic boys who want to take control of the game, but we often counteract that with, we'll put in a 30-second power play, which means any girl who scores, she gets double points for the team. So it's trying to engage everybody. And my experience is that the boys suddenly realise that actually the girls can play really well. So I think they put all their sort of, their fast netball skills into it, and it's such a great mashup of all their other sports. But they need to play it, and once they've realised that mixed isn't that bad, they fully embrace it. But yeah, it's been great.
If I could just add on that point, because I'm lucky enough to also be the SSCO, and we still do kind of like have a school sports partnership operating in this area. And one of the biggest uptakes that we have for our competitions every single year is we run a year 3 and 4 and a year 5 and 6 mixed handball competition. Yeah. And because the contact element is taken out of the game, we have no concerns really in relation to mixing boys and girls, because we restrict the number of steps that they can take with that takes away the kind of one person just dominating, and it is easily one of the most fun, one of the most interesting, and one of the most enthusiastic environments you can create in a PE context.
Thanks, Colin. Guys, I'm going to answer the next question. There was a question raised around progression routes for players from schools programs through clubs / into regional academy and performance programs. So those of you that don't know, I'm the national performance manager. I think I mentioned it earlier on. So I'm responsible for the regional academy programs. Liz is one of our coaches in the Southwest, and also manages our Southeast program temporarily at the moment. And we've had the question around if a player is nominated to a regional academy, what's the process of going for a trial. Currently, we hold trials in June every year. Places are available in some academies to be filled throughout the year. So so players could be nominated and sent in to trial, but that's only if we've got capacity. And we do have reviews of the players that are in the academy program, so that we have potential releases as well. So there isn't. It's not that the recruitment process is closed after June. The process is always open. But it just depends on whether or not we have capacity. So we have a maximum number of places per academy that if they're filled, then, and we don't have any plans to release a player, then we just keep that. We don't invite anybody in at that stage. But my suggestion is that find out who your regional academy manager is in your particular region, keep in regular contact with them, and they'll keep you informed of opportunities that are available. Ricardo, just because we've got you on the call and your expertise, I mean, I've got my ideas around this question as well. There's a question around what do we think the top 3 skills are from regional to progressing to youth national teams, let's say. So what skills would the PE teachers be looking to develop? I mean, I've got mine, but I mean, I'll start with you because you're the expert in the room in terms of team coach.
Well, I'm far from being the expert, but I think what's key and what we're looking for in initial stages is provide a clear understanding of the game. I think a player being able to understand the game will then improve the ability to make right decisions. And decision making nowadays is what makes the difference between the highest paid players and the seconds in the list. Obviously, the usual stuff: shooting, catching and passing and running, all the physical skills are key. But I would emphasize the importance of allowing, on the initial stage, the kids to make mistakes, to feel vulnerable and to learn from them, rather than through the game process, rather than being too prescriptive on exercises or drills or stuff like that. I would focus on allowing them to play, allowing them to make mistakes, allowing them to develop their understanding of the game through their own experience. Because we quite often, we coaches and we teachers quite often are guilty of trying to prescribe too much. And I think there's no learn as one we do ourselves through our own mistakes. And that would be my go-to point. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to. I'm not the moderator, but I've seen on our participants someone from IHF that I would like to question. Maria, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, good. Nice to hear from you.
You are tricky.
I would just like to bring this back to the discussion about mixed game at primary school level, the type of games that IHF develops, and obviously you being one of the leaders of IHF in development of handball in schools. I think it would be great for everyone to understand your opinion on this, and also from an IHF perspective. If that's okay.
Well, that's okay.
Thank you.
Sorry for my English, because I'm Portuguese, like Ricardo. Unfortunately, I had no opportunity to listen all your presentations because I just got online very late. I'm just trying to move from another place because we are several people in the same place speaking. Well, for primary school, I'm just thinking about what you think is primary school. Maybe for you, primary school, if it is about until 10, 11 years of age, is it that, Ricardo? Yeah?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, primary school, we can use mixed teams, but we have a problem with the physical contact in handball. I understand that in the very beginning, we can constrain the physical contact. This can be used to allow everybody to play and to mix the teams. But step by step, we know that we have to introduce the physical contact. In that case, I advise that only female can defend female players and male defend male players. But we also can allow the girls to defend the male players because it's good to develop the handball, the female handball level. Because when we got into the puberty, there are problems with the physical contact because we have the hands in front of our body, and this can be a little bit constrained for the kids and for the girls. So I think we can use special rules to put everybody together to play, to enjoy the game. For sure, to not allow two players to shoot in a row, it is a special rule to involve everybody. And also to give different scores depending on the number on the sequence of the scoring attempts. There's lots of possibilities to involve everybody, but we also must understand that when we want to develop the handball, we want the best, not to feel so competent. So we need also to look to the best players, best students, because we want them to continue in the sport, because this will help to develop the handball. I would like just to add some other things, that is the idea of adapting the handball to our schools. It is not only 5 against 5, please. We should use other game forms. For example, 3 against 3 plus goalkeepers is a really interesting one. And also we can use a game form in the beginning with the advanced goalkeeper. Then we can play 3 against 2 or 4 against 3 plus the goalkeeper. This is really good at the beginning because we help them to understand the most basic things, that is to be able to solve numerical advantage and to score a lot, to always find a passing line, to pass a lot, to different types of passes. There are lots of issues that we can focus when we talk about this introduction. So there is lots of possibilities, and we don't really need to have always a perfect goal, always a perfect court. This is not true. So we need to adapt the handball to our school conditions, to our kids' levels. This is always the key. So there is a kind of progression that we can use, but in the very beginning, it always depends on each teacher, on the ability of these teachers to understand the game, to like the game. Because if your teachers do not appreciate the game as a tool to educate students at school, they will never use handball at school. So they need to like the handball, because handball for primary schools, well, there's a fantastic game because the kids are always running, shooting. Oh, it's really linked with the motor skills, or linked with the basic motor skills. So I think it is a really interesting tool for educating students at school to introduce collective sports. So we need to make it different from basketball, from soccer, to be able to have a space in handball, in the curriculum in the school, to have this space. So sorry, I'm just talking too much because, well, this is my daily life at school, at the university, and I enjoy it very much. So I don't want to to speak too much about this, but well, I'm available if you want to know anything more. Just a couple of ideas. Sorry for my English. Sorry.
Louisa, thank you so much for that passionate take on handball and some really cool ideas around how the teachers and coaches on the call can develop the game for the younger age groups. It was lovely to hear, and your English was perfect. So thank you for that.
I would just like to add something, because some years ago I spoke with Kirk, that is a really known researcher about this stuff about team sports at school, and he told me that in England they had a really bad experience with handball at school. Then I tried to understand a little bit more why this happened. This was around the Olympics, and he told me that well, they introduced 7 against 7. And that is obviously a really big mistake, and particularly when we use a lined up defense. In the beginning, it should be a little bit like football, running and going, everybody goes to the attack, everybody goes to defend. And then step by step, we will introduce the positional play. And there is a key to decide this. And the key should be when they are ready to play positional play. Not sometimes we can go a little bit faster and to introduce this positional play with playing constraints, like Colin said. I agree with what he said, but this should be mainly based on the kids' needs, on their level of development, and not in our idea of handball. So I should help them to develop their own ideas of handball, to help them to understand the game, to enjoy the game. If they don't enjoy the game, the lesson, they will not come in the next day with the same feeling. So this is always about this, to like handball, kids, and also teachers.
Louisa, thanks so much for that. Yeah, really important that as coaches and teachers, we're putting the needs and wants of the kids in the middle. Everyone talks about player-centered coaching, athlete-centered coaching, and it's so important to make sure that we are moving the kids on at the relevant stages according to their needs and wants. So yeah, perfect advice. And guys, we're very lucky to have Lucy on the call for that. So thank you for your contribution.
You're welcome.
Thank you. There's one more question, guys. If there's any more that want to come in, I mean, I appreciate people probably going to be dropping off the call, but there's just one more question around the rules, around movement with the ball. I'll fill this one. So can you take 3 steps, bounce the ball, so dribble the ball, and then take a further 3 steps. Yeah, absolutely. So that's the rule. Once you've caught the ball, player can take 3 steps with the ball, bounce the ball unlimited amount of times. Obviously, there's some technical detail around that in terms of not being allowed to carry the handball like they might in basketball. If you can see my video, I'm just making that motion with my hand. Once I've stopped dribbling the ball, I can take 3 more steps, and then I have to release, so I can't restart my dribble.
Bobby, sorry for inputting on that, but if there's a need for understanding the rules around dribble, there's on England Handball webpage, if you go to schools competition, there's a link to YouTube videos that will explain clearly the rules that you're trying to understand.
Probably explaining much better than I can as well, so thanks for pointing that out, Ricardo. Guys, there's no more questions coming into the chat. I'm going to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to Colin, Stan and Liz for joining us on the call and sharing their experiences of delivering schools handball into schools. It's been a real pleasure to host. I don't know if you guys have any closing remarks. Liz, we'll start with you.
No, just thank you very much for having us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Stan?
Same for me. Thank you. Thank you for your time, guys.
Thanks, Dan. And Mr. McGill?
No, just a massive thank you, and also like to say a quick hello to Adam Woodage, who I know will be watching this a bit later on. He's an absolute legend in the world of handball. He's done a heck of a lot to help me out, and I know he gets about quite a lot. So just wanted to say hello.
Thanks for that shout out, Colin. Guys, I hope you're all well wherever you are. Stay safe in the current climate, and we'll hopefully see you on the next webinar with Axel Norgard from Denmark, from Scannable Handball Club. Thank you very much. All the best, everybody. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
See you later, guys.